It's about time I told you the story of how I got scammed out of my startup by $1 billion company. Now, I've been starting startups since about the age of 18. All I remember when I was in high school as a senior was seeing a video titled How to Start a Startup by Sam Altman. And in that series of videos, it was just all of these young guys about my age, multimillionaires, starting these massive companies. I looked at them and I knew that I wanted to do that. And from then on, all I did was start startups. I even dropped out of school. Fast forward 4, 5, 6 years, I'm about 25 years old, and I'm working on my startup called Ubiquity Financial. Now, Ubiquity Financial was a spin-off of my most successful app, which is UpCredit. And we wanted to help people build their credit by just taking their credit report and giving them automated credit suggestions, similar to Credit Karma. UpCredit was so much more successful than we ever anticipated it would be, to the point that we couldn't sustain the growth because we weren't making money off of the users. So naturally, what my partner and I did is we sought out investors to help us scale the platform and sustain the growth. We found an investor that was interested in talking with us, and she liked the idea a lot, but the issue is that she said she did not invest in our style of businesses, that is direct to consumer businesses. My partner and I go back to the drawing board and we decide, hey, we're already inside of the credit industry, which is already incredibly hard to be in. It would just make sense for us to pivot to a B2B business model. The idea behind Ubiquity Financial is, instead of helping people build credit, how about we help businesses publish and talk to credit bureaus? Of course, it was not nearly as simple as we thought it would be to launch this new platform. It took compliance. It took a lot of conversations with like these big wigs in the credit industry, and a year before we were able to officially launch. So we launched finally, and it was really exciting. Got our first client. This client was quite unreasonable. They were hard. They did not know what they were doing. In fact, they were honestly unethical. They didn't really fundamentally understand how to publish credit reports. They pushed back a lot on deadlines. Of course, we're thinking, hey, this is the cost of doing businesses. And then it kept going on for the better part of half a year. We decided we have to start expanding our search to companies outside of them. And we did. So I'm emailing, I'm talking to people in the credit industry. And the thing is a lot of them were interested. And they would sign these things called letters of intent. Or they'd say, hey, let's get into meetings. And they would talk to us. But that's all they would do. When it's time to select the card or pay, we noticed they were not doing that. And that was the general trend of most of the companies we work with in the credit industry. They were bullshitters. Now, I persevere. I keep going. And eventually we talked to this client that basically promised us 1 million accounts. And that's a lot of money, even if you're charging cents on the dollar. That's where the story takes a turn for the worse with this client. He was going to sign on within a month or two. And then a month became 4 months, and then 6 months. 6 months became 8 months, and even almost a year. This guy's kind of dangling this prospect of 700,000 to 1 million accounts over our head. And we're constantly contorting and changing our solution to fit his needs and sending all this documentation for him, but he's not paying us. I remember calling him and asking, you said that you were going to sign on today. This is the first of the month. Where are you? Where is it? Are you ready to launch your product and officially integrate into our system and give us a payment? And he said, hey, I got to push this back another month. I remember that being the light bulb in my head that said, we got to close business. At this point, I had been working on this business for about 2 or 3 years. I remember saying, I don't think I have it in me anymore. This isn't moving. We've gone through too much. We've gone through so much with compliance. We had one shitty client that signed on to us that barely paid us. Then we got the runaround from all of these companies. And now we have this one client who we've talked to for so long and serviced for so long. And he's been promising us all these fancy big numbers. And then the runaround for about the 7th time. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm done. So it made sense to us, instead of just closing shop and just leaving the business to just rot or decay, to sell the business, because that made the most sense. We had valuable technology, we had expertise on how to service it, and we looked at our solution and we thought it was better than all of our competitors. So what I do is I blast an email to every company in the industry, even the biggest companies that were 100 times bigger than us, bigger than the companies that we worked with as clients. And I didn't expect much from it, but to my surprise, billion-dollar companies were getting back to me. We started talking to them, getting into meetings with them, doing demos with them. But like I said, the credit industry is full of BS. It didn't really lead anywhere. We did get one offer, and that offer was incredibly low. Put it this way, it's not enough for you to get a mid-level car, not even a used car. Then my inbox goes off, and I see one of the companies that I actually hit up with the least expectation that they hit us back, because their product was actually quite similar to ours. They said they were interested in having a meeting with us. And I said, hey, what does it hurt to talk to them? So we get in the meeting with this company. It's all of the executives from this company. One thing I remember about this meeting is that none of them gave any give. It was all poker face. In fact, the way that they ended the meeting was, okay, we'll let you know. And they did. They said that they wanted the conversation to continue. Because they're showing this interest, we go through multiple rounds of calls. And I remember talking to my partner. I'm saying, hey, we're falling right back into the same pattern that we did before. That is fronting all of this faith and then not getting anything in return. So I'm like, hey, do you guys want to pay? We just need you to show us one more thing before we pay. We need you to get all of these files and process it through your system for us to verify that your system actually works. Because of the complexity of our system, it costs money for us to do that. And it was not trivial. If you've seen my other vlog that I posted about a year or so ago, it took the better part of 4 days. Sleepless nights. I honestly was drinking copious amounts of caffeine and even taking Adderall. I did this with the idea that I'm gonna be this startup founder that's gonna sell his business, and I can put that notch in the belt saying, I have successfully exited from a startup. Part of that exit was potentially a job too. Nonetheless, we finally processed the files. We notify them, we bring the executives back into a meeting, and they're throwing curveballs at us. Killing it. Every question is being answered flawlessly. They can't even make an excuse to not like the product. Sign off, and then I send an email after the meeting saying, hey, at this point, I think you guys have enough information to make your decision if you want to buy the product or not. The CEO personally calls me on my cell phone, and I connect my partner. And then he says, hey, we like the solution. We're going to talk to the lawyers, and we're going to draft up a letter of intent. Same letter of intent that I told you guys about earlier. We start telling everybody on our team, I've been doing this for so long, and finally it's gonna pay off. That Monday comes around and they email us and they say, hey, we want to hop in one more meeting to verify something before we send you guys an offer. And we're like, sure. We wanted to test out this AI feature that you guys said that you guys had. So we're like, sure. Every single time they test the feature, it costs us money. Anyways, we do it. We fire up the engine, hop in a meeting with them. We're testing the solution with the questions that they throw at us, flawlessly answering every question. I'm like, okay, yeah, we got this in the bag at this point. As the meeting adjourns, I'm in a pretty good mood. But then I get a call from a random number and I answer the phone. I say, hello? And she said, hey, tell me, this is the CPO, Chief Product Officer. And I'm like, hey, yeah, what's up? She says, we don't know if this is exactly what we've been looking for. We thought that the product was a little bit more further along than you made it seem to be. The CEO ends up calling us and gives us a really low ball offer, especially for the amount of work that we put in to just even demo them. Anyways, we decided to not go with it. We closed shop and we decided to split ways, and we shut down all the emails, shut down all the servers, we shut down the product, and yeah, the company dies. And we say our final goodbyes to everything that was Ubiquity Financial. The point of the story is not for you guys to feel bad for me, but more so for you to use it as a cautionary tale. Think about it. A company that did something very similar to us, that we had a better product than, took us through multiple rounds of talks with the potential of us selling our company. They saw every intimate detail of the business, from income, client details, and even technology, and they randomly stopped and changed their mind at the end after they gave us a verbal offer. Does that now sound sus to you at all? So ultimately, the point is for you guys to understand, number one, nothing is guaranteed in the startup game. And sometimes the businesses are funny and they play dirty. Number two, you need to be prepared for what it looks like to fail potentially. I know as startup founders, we don't like to think that, but failures do happen. And a lot of times, all that money that you spent on your startup, you're going to have to find a way to pay that back, whether it's from investors or even debt like myself. And number three, move on with your life. There's more than this failure. There's always bigger and better. And in my next video, what you guys will see is what I did to mentally recoup from this failure. I took a trip, even without money, without income, and I'm gonna explain exactly how I did all of that. So I hope you guys found the story useful. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.